All right, I just got done with one of these videos about axe crossbows. I'm just gonna pick another manufacturer. We're gonna do another video right now. I already did Barnett, already did axe. What's another good one to do? How about Bear? I'm gonna hit record on this, what I'm gonna do. Start now. 3, 2, 1. Boom, we're recording on the phone, there it is. Purpose of these things, there's going to be a few little tidbits about crossbows throughout these videos. Hopefully they are fun to watch. But really the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to pick a successor to Bunjie. I'm trying to decide what crossbow manufacturer will I choose for 2021. Who is going to accompany me into the woods? The only way to figure that out is to look at all the manufacturers, which is what I'm doing now. I'm going to look at their best offering, right, going into this season. The best one that they can show me on their websites. I'm going to comment on this stuff, what I like, what I don't like about what I see. And in the end, I'm going to choose 3 or 4 of those to go try out. I'm not going to try every crossbow on the market. I'm just going to look through them first. So today, I'm just going to randomly pick another one off the top of my head. We are going with Bear Archery, Fred Bear. How cool is that? Bear Archery. Now, that is where the name Bear comes from. It does come from Fred Bear. I looked it up. I actually did a little research on this. Now, I knew a little bit about Fred Bear. I'm not an expert on Fred Bear. I have a lot of respect for Fred Bear, as I do for any archery pioneer. But an interesting thing about Fred Bear is that he was pretty much a traditionalist. He was pretty much into traditional archery. He was not into crossbows, right? He was not into compound bows, believe it or not. And we look at this website and you can see celebrate 50 years, the 50th anniversary takedown. You look at this and man, I look at this and it makes me almost want to go out there and shoot traditional archery. We're proud to continue what Mr. Bear started more than 85 years ago when he made his first traditional bow. His spirit, vision, and craftsmanship have stood the test of time. I look at that stuff and I get pretty interested in the traditional stuff just because if you look at that beautiful piece of wood. Now, I am not much for making stuff with my hands. You know, I don't have the ability like that, the craftsmanship that my father had. My father made my desk, he made furniture, he made bookshelves and dressers and beds, and he built a house that I grew up in, that sort of thing. I see this and I just have a real appreciation for it because if I knew what I was doing, I could make my own traditional bow and go out there. I actually have a neighbor, a friend of mine, who's made his own traditional bow. I don't know if he's going to hunt with it, but that's beyond my skill level, that's for sure. But it looks so nice when you're done with it, and that would be really cool. I would not hunt with a crossbow that I made. That wouldn't happen. Engineered for top-of-the-line speed, extreme accuracy. I mentioned that in a previous video. Extreme accuracy? I mean, if something's accurate, how can it be extremely accurate? If I'm hitting bullseyes, how can I hit even more bullseyes? I mean, if it's accurate, it's accurate. You can't be... I'm more interested in consistent accuracy. Like, I'm going to be able to replicate that in the field the next time I take a shot, every time I take a shot. That's more important to me than words like hyper accuracy or extreme accuracy. I'm not as interested in those words, but they use that. Dependability is a nice feature in pretty much anything that I buy. I am hoping it is dependable and will do what I bought it for. That's nice to hear. BearX Crossbows. BearX, they have a different name for it. BearX Crossbows. It's not Bear Crossbows. It's not Bear Archery Crossbows. It's BearX. It's like almost like it's killing them to make a crossbow. You know what I mean? Like Fred Bear sold the company and now they make compound bows. And that probably was not something that sat well necessarily with Fred Bear. But now they're making crossbows and a lot of people are like, great, now you're making crossbows, whatever. Go down that road. It is what it is. So we're looking at the crossbows here. And if we scroll down, we see the Impact. That appears to be a $1,049 model. The Impact CDXV, which is a scaled down version apparently because it's $100 cheaper. Then we have the Constrictor, the Intense, interesting. We have the True X bolts, very cool. Crossbow bolts, Saga 405, the Desire XL for $59.99, a $59 crossbow, $60, and you're in the crossbow business. I got to look at this. I got to look at it. I can't not look at this. So we have a $69 crossbow that is a recurve. It's a pistol, kinda. It looks like a pistol crossbow. Adjustable stock up to 2.5 inches for increased stability. Compact design, pistol crossbow with arrow speeds up to 175 feet per second. That's 3 premium bolts. That's pretty cool. But you can get it in black. Oh, look at the arrows. Desire crossbow bolt. Now this kind of does look more like your traditional bolt, you know. I did another video about whether they're called arrows or bolts and why I call them arrows. But you can call them whatever you want. I don't have a problem with it one way or another. But this really does look more like what I would consider a traditional bolt. But let's look at those. Man, that's an interesting little feller. Wow. It looks like it's not even you can't take this is really for target only because you can't take that broadhead off. I think it's crimped right on here. Interesting. How does that fit in here? Oh, they got one loaded in the picture. Look at that. In the picture, we see it loaded, and those must be the string stoppers there that are kind of obstructing our view. That probably reduces the vibration on the front end. But that arrow is loaded and does not even extend to the end of the riser. Wow. The riser probably ends where that little notch is. That's probably the end of the riser, because that's where the limbs are. That looks like that's where the limbs attach to the front of the barrel. So we got our flight groove, the riser attached there. The arrow does not protrude all the way down to the end of the shooting rail. Interesting, I commented in the last video I did about axe crossbows, how I didn't like how the arrow protruded past the end of the riser, past the stirrup area, and it's just sort of sticking out there on its own. That's a safety issue. It departs from what traditionally crossbows have been designed to do, the way that they have been designed. This is kind of the opposite. This actually has an arrow that is too short, that does not even protrude to the string stops, much less to the end of the riser. Now, shorter like this, you don't know where that's going to go. You pull the trigger, it lifts up, it hits one of the string stops, it's a problem. Somewhere I was reading here recently where the proposed legislation requires that the arrow be at least long enough to reach the riser. This would not meet those requirements. So that's a different thing. So that would not be a legal hunting implement in many places. We're going 175 feet per second. Now that's pretty slow. 175 feet per second. I wonder what those little arrows weigh. Desire crossbow bolts. They weigh 1.9 pounds. I am betting that's not accurate. They weigh 1.9 pounds for 12 of them. The package weighs, okay, 1.9 pounds. I'm betting that's what that is. There are aluminum though, so they might weigh like 200 grains or something. Forgive me, I can't help but look this stuff up because this is pretty interesting. So we're just going to drop out of there. We're going to go Desire bolts. Desire crossbow bolt. Boom. And my fingers aren't doing it good. BearX crossbow bolts. I'm going to type Desire though, because I only want to look at the Desire ones for right. Yep. We're looking at the Desires. That's the page we were just at. Here is an Amazon thing. We'll see if the Amazon will give us a weight. We look through here. Boom, boom, boom. Here they're saying 4.7 ounces. 4.7 ounces. That is the package weight, 0.26 pounds. So that's not for one of them. That's for 12. So let's do this. 4.7 ounces. I can go back here and translate that to grain. 4.7 ounces. And we're going to divide that by 12. Equals 0.39 ounces. Now we're dealing with numbers that are probably going to put us in a ballpark of what those little arrows weigh. I hope you're getting a kick out of this. This is kind of cool. See if this works. But I want to translate that to grains. Can you do that for me, Google? Oh, 171.3541 blah, blah, blah grains. Thank you, Google. How cool is that? With a couple little clicks, we found out what those things probably weigh. Around, let's say 170 grains, right? Because I want to see something. Here's why I'm doing that, right? We're going to get rid of these. I don't need that on here right yet. We're going to click on here. We're jumping ahead of ourselves here. This is usually at the end of these videos, but we just got to see what we're dealing with, right? So on that little crossbow with those little Desire bolts, we're going to click on here and we're just going to test it and see. I'm going to move that down there. We're going to test and see if we have a 171 grain arrow traveling 175 feet per second. Is it going to moose? What's your vote? Do you think it's going to moose? Boom. Here we go. It turkeys. How great is that? I didn't know there was a turkey icon on this website. Go back and watch the other videos. You'll see why I like this website. But that I get a kick out of that. It turkeys. How cool is that? That's cute. It's got 11.63 foot-pounds and a momentum of 0.133 slugs. That is obviously the lowest I've ever seen on here. So don't hunt with a crossbow like that with those kinds of numbers. I do it, you know, these numbers don't mean everything, right? They are just a tool to help us rate one crossbow or understand one crossbow versus another. They're a tool, that's all they are. And they're a lot of fun. That turkey was pretty cool. I didn't see that coming. So we're gonna go back to our Bear archery. I'm gonna do a drop down right here. We're gonna drop down on the bows. We're gonna go to, nope, we don't want compounds. Compounds, ooh, I don't want that. We're going down to crossbows. That was a pretty big mistake there, Rich. Watch what you're doing. So let's look at the impact. That's their flagship model, and I am focusing primarily on the flagship models here. So it's BearX, not Bear Archery anymore. We're crossbow hunters, so we're the outcasts, right? We can't be part of the cool kids group, apparently. We have to have, like, you know, a little asterisk next to everything we do, because, you know, whatever. That's on them. 7.8 pounds, 415 feet per second, and we'll look at the arrows that we're shooting out of that to attain those speeds. Draw weight of 180 pounds. The all-new detachable silent crank can be used to decock the crossbow and features an anti-reverse mechanism to stop the crank when the handle is let go. Pretty cool. Okay, the cranks are evolving, just like everything in crossbow hunting. And this is a much better crank style if it is going to stop itself when you are decocking that crossbow. That appeals to me because with Genevieve's, you got to wear the strap, and if that thing ever gets away from you, it's going to spin right out of control and break your hand. So it's a little bit much for her to decock her crossbow. Her crossbow is a micro suppressor 355 from Excalibur. It's a little bit much to decock, so I do the decocking. She can cock it, no problem. In fact, she can cock it better than I can cock it. So she does a good job of that. 3 BearX True X arrows, illuminated scope, 4 arrow quiver, sling, and rail loop string wax. This comes with an entire kit. That's pretty cool. So that's a lot of good stuff. That's a good looking crossbow. And when I look at the crossbow itself, let's zoom in a little bit here. Wow, I see something I don't like right off the bat on this thing. I don't like this whatsoever. See how the quiver is attached? Is there a picture, like a top-down picture? Look how the quiver is attached. If you're right-handed like I am, like most people are, how are you going to put your right eye on that scope without poking your left eye out with the arrows? That's insane. I would take that quiver, if you're right-handed, you put that quiver on the other side, maybe then it's away from your eyes, maybe tilt it out a little, I don't know. It doesn't make much sense, I understand that, to put the quiver on the front end and have it horizontally, right, perpendicular to the shooting rail. Not when your crossbow is this narrow, because now you've just increased the width of the crossbow. It doesn't make sense to do that. So put it under, like most crossbows. Put it down on the opposite side of your hand so it's on the other side, you know, out of the way. When we looked at Barnett, I liked that design, right? We talked about that. That turned out, it didn't look right on some of the pictures, but then you see how they've got it tilted out. That won't be a problem. But this thing's just asking for trouble. Like, seriously, like you're, you know, in the heat of the moment, you got a deer coming in and you want to get ready. You're not going to be, that's asking for trouble. This is one of those things, and I want to point out, this is why I do this, to exclude and rule out certain crossbows, right? Is that a deal breaker? No, but it gives me a heads up about what I got to look at if I go try one of these crossbows out. Can I live with that design? Is there a way to work around that? Unfortunately, you can't get a crossbow for free and then hunt with it for a season and use it in the backyard and all this other stuff and decide whether you like it. You kind of got to decide without buying it, right? So it is what it is, you know. So I don't see anything necessarily that stands out, though, about this crossbow that makes me say, oh, I've got to have this crossbow. This is the greatest crossbow of all time, and it offers features that others don't. It has decocking as an option, but that's with the crank. I'm not big on the cranks. If this cannot be cocked with a rope cocker, I probably would not purchase one. If it can't be decocked with a rope cocker, probably less likely to purchase one. That's just a fact. And if I'm going to have to use a crank, then I'm probably just going to stick with an Excalibur because you got to use a crank. So if a crank is part of what you're going to do, that's not a reason for me to switch manufacturers necessarily. And I'm not beholden at this point to any manufacturer. So we got 2 different camo finishes. That's neat. These look like the same camo finish, except this one's zoomed in. Okay. Draw weight of 185 pounds. With a rope cocking device, I should be able to rope cock that. And you know, what's up with that? I don't, you know, but you have to use the crank, it looks like. 3 arrows. Yep, 3 arrows. Okay, that's not sure why that's there. That's the arrow count, I guess. That's great. 3 BearX True X arrows. Now, what they're doing, a lot of these manufacturers are going to skinnier arrows these days. The differences between compounds and crossbows is starting to diminish, and you're seeing them switch to longer arrows in the case of a lot of manufacturers. Not all, certainly not in the case of Excalibur. They're offering 2 shorter versions of arrows instead. And you're seeing other crossbow manufacturers now, though, go to like 20, 22, 21-inch arrows, what have you. They're also going to do a smaller diameter arrow, which in theory gives you better penetration because it's a narrower, you know, it's easier to push something that's thin through an animal than it is to push something that's thick through an animal. I mean, there's just some common sense there. The extent to which that makes a difference, that's up for debate, but that's kind of one of the concepts of it, one of the reasons for it. So we're looking at these, and let's go look at those arrows so we get a feel for what those arrows do. True X, those are the new ones. So what are we looking at here? BearX. True X knock technology. Great. Crossbow arrows are 20 inches long and fletched with 4-inch vanes. Compatible. It sounds just like the arrows I grew up hunting with, right? I mean, it sounds just like the arrows I used in Bunjie for 10 years. Compatible with this crossbow. 6-pack, 370 grains with 100 grain field points. I think that means it's 370 total. So if we put a 150 grain broadhead on there, we're probably at 420. I'm betting that is what it is. These are .005 straightness arrows. I don't know if I like that either. I mean, that's the low end of arrows, right? I mean, we're talking about .005. I hunted a lot with those arrows, killed a lot of deer with those arrows. But when I switched to .001 straightness, that made a lot of difference in the consistency of accuracy that I was getting. .001 straightness arrows pretty much all shoot the same, in my experience, my limited experience on the crossbows that I've used. So you've got to test yours, that sort of thing. But I can tell you, going forward, I am .001 straightness only. That's the only thing I will consider hunting with. So that's just my thing, okay? And that's based on that. I'm not saying, obviously you can do it otherwise, because I killed dozens, literally dozens of deer with .005 straightness arrows. Cheap, over the counter, cheapest arrows Excalibur sold, right? Firebolts. Killed dozens of deer with them. I killed a dozen animals with one of them over and over and over. But they don't all fly the same. They don't all shoot the same, and they needed a little bit more attention from me. The .001s, I don't see that that's the case. So if we're doing that, I'm betting if we're at 400, those are 370, right? 370 grains. Drop back here, we're getting 415 feet per second at 370. And so we're just going to play with some numbers, do what I like to do in this thing. We're going to see if this mooses or does it merely turkey. We'll hop back on here. Real chat. Don't even have to spell it right. My phone knows where it wants to take me. So we'll click on that and kaboom. We could do 370. Boom, boom, boom. At 415. Boom, boom, boom. And generate that kinetic energy calculator, and we're going to drop down. We moose, but we moose at 141.47 foot-pounds, and momentum of 0.682 slugs. This lighter arrow, traveling at a speed of 415 feet per second, does not generate as much kinetic energy and momentum as a slightly heavier arrow would do. We're at 141 and 0.682. Now, if we jack this bad boy up, right, and we go up to 420 arrow weight, we're going to lose 15 feet per second, but we're still going to be at 400 feet per second. Ooh, these are estimates based on some math that I did. I talked about it in previous videos of this nature. If you go back and watch the one on Barnett, I go into detail about that. But if we generate that here and look at it, it mooses once again, but we've gone from the 140 to 149. We've gone from the 0.6s to the 0.746. All of them are going to be kind of in that ballpark, right? So out of the box, you screw on a broadhead of choice, pick a 150 grain broadhead, and kaboom, you got yourself a crossbow that is moosing, and you can go kill any animal on the planet with this crossbow. So that's pretty cool. BearX, I can't say that I saw anything looking at that crossbow that tells me I got to have that crossbow. There was nothing there that stood out and was like, wow, I got to have that crossbow. But I'm glad to see that Archery is entering into the crossbow realm and making crossbows, that sort of thing. That's awesome. And if you have experience with Bear Crossbows, please let me know what that experience is. Share that with me in the comments. Share it with the rest of the friends of Bunjie in the comments so that we know what your experience is. Probably not on my list of ones to go try. Another reason for that is there isn't a Bear dealership near me where I can go to them and converse with them and have them fix my crossbow if that were the case. So that's a factor too. But it was a fun video just the same. Hope you got something out of this. Until the next video, all hail Bunjie.